In January 2024, Cloudflare employee Brittany Peach recorded herself getting laid off. It went viral on TikTok. Was she right? Was it a company cover-up? What's happened since then? Did she get another job? In this video, we'll dive deep into this live layoff case study. So let's go. Now, Cloudflare is a technology company, and Brittany was in sales there. Before we go into the play-by-play of the recording, let's take a quick look at Brittany's professional profile. So you can see here, I have Brittany's profile, her LinkedIn profile. So let's go all the way to the bottom. And you can see she graduated from university in 2018. Most of her previous experience over the years has been in things like stage management, lighting technician, studio technician, which are not especially relevant to the role at Cloudflare. She also moved from there to Insight Global, which looks like a recruiting firm, and became an account manager there. So she started getting some sales experience. And then she moved into Snowflake. Now, one thing I find unusual about this move is that she became a corporate account executive in the technology industry, selling to enterprises, where she says she prospected, she did architecture walkthroughs, which I would be a little bit skeptical about for somebody joining a technology firm in the cloud SaaS space around data. She did POCs, contract negotiation, and finally closing deals. Now, people may exaggerate a little bit in their profiles, and I can't fault folks for doing that necessarily. But again, as an executive, I would highly question how somebody could move from previous roles to such a role in a highly technical field without going through other roles like inside sales first. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it raises a bit of a question mark. She then moved into a strategic account executive role, which is positioned as a more senior role, where now she's building relationships with VP and C-suite customers. So again, dealing in highly complex, high-level sales cycles. One thing I did notice is that after Snowflake, she left in 2023 of May, according to her LinkedIn profile, and joined Cloudflare in August. So the question in my mind is, well, you know, what happened there? Did Snowflake let her go as well? And as an executive or hiring manager, I would think about that carefully and try to understand the specific reasons for why that happened. All right. With that said, let's go into the video itself. So the backdrop here is that Brittany has sales experience, worked in technology enterprise business-to-business sales. According to her profile, she has deep experience even working at a high level with IT executives. All right, so now let's go and watch the recording.
Hey, Brittany. Hi.
Okay, let's stop right there. Now, Brittany has said she's heard from her coworkers that they've been getting meeting invites and calls, so she knows that a layoff's going to happen. She's recorded this call. Now, you know, Brittany should know that it's illegal in many places to record such a call without two-party consent. If a state has two-party consent, it means that both Brittany and Cloudflare employees would have had to consent to the call, in which case they did not. It can be a problem for Brittany because she could face fines of up to $2,500 or imprisonment for up to a year. Those are pretty hefty penalties that I personally wouldn't want to take. Now, my sense is that Cloudflare or probably most companies would not actually pursue that with her, especially after all the fallout that Cloudflare has received and negative publicity. But it's something to really keep in mind because although you may get a lot of publicity yourself, the question is, how will this impact you long term? I'm not saying she shouldn't have done this. All I'm saying is legally, Cloudflare now has the ability to go after her and has leverage against her because of what she's done there. Okay, let's keep going.
Yes, I'm so sorry. My name's Rosie. I'm just joining the call. Nice to meet you. I'm on the HR team.
Hi, Brittany.
Hi.
Thanks for meeting with me and Rosie. We have an important meeting today. We finished our evaluations of 2023 performance.
Okay, I'm going to stop this right there. So now we have Rosie from HR who joins, and Dom, as we'll find out later, his name, also joins the call. It's common that HR joins such a call. In situations I've seen HR in the call. Sometimes HR is not in the call. What I'm concerned about in this one, though, is the manager is not in the call. It does happen in all the cases where I've had to lay off employees. I have been on the call, and I think a manager should be on the call when they lay off employees.
Where you have not met Cloudflare expectations for performance.
Now, if you look at the subtext in the video there, the caption, she says, "What did I have to lose?" I think she's very brave, but there's a lot at stake potentially by recording this video, because large companies will want to be very risk averse. So getting hired at a large company, I think, will be more difficult for Rosie, just because hiring managers typically want to hire the template. And so when they see this content and they see all of the fallout that had happened because of this content and because of this video, it means that her options will be reduced as to where she could work in the future.
We've decided to part ways with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop you right there.
Sure.
So I started August 25th. I've been on a 3-month ramp, and then it was 3 weeks of December, and then a week of Christmas, and then here we are. I have had the highest activity amongst my team. Since I've started, I have had 3 contracts out, done a really great job managing my deals up until the very end that decided not to close last minute. So I don't think that makes a lot of sense for me in my Cloudflare journey here so far.
Okay, so here she knows what's going to happen. Here she's trying to justify why the explanation that HR is giving is wrong. Now, it doesn't matter what explanation HR gives. The decision has been made, whether it's right or wrong. In a layoff meeting, this is not the time to really discuss that. It's not going to help. And my advice generally in these situations is to provide as little information as possible and try to get as much information as possible, because anything you say can actually be used against you. Here she says she started August 25th. She had a 3-month ramp, 3 weeks of December, week of Christmas, and it looks like timing-wise, she probably didn't start at the best possible time. They had the holidays, and enterprise customers typically don't buy. There's a big slowdown during that time. So it's not that she doesn't have any points. The challenge is she's making them to HR, and what she should be trying to get from HR is as much information as possible, because HR did not make the decision to let her go. They are just delivering the news. The other thing I noticed here is that she basically says that she had the highest activity amongst the team. Now, to her, activity is important, and I'm not saying it's not. Activity is a metric that folks use to gauge sales performance, but it's not the most important metric. She said she got 3 contracts out. She said she did a great job managing the deals. But if you notice, she also said they decided not to close last minute. So she herself knows that something didn't quite go well, that perhaps could have gone better. Okay, let's keep going.
So every single one-on-one I've had with my manager, every conversation I've had with him, he has been giving me nothing but I am doing a great job. I have had great activity. I have really great meetings. I'm picking up the products very quickly. And
okay, again, a manager says she's had great activity. She's probably got reinforcing feedback that she's doing well on the activity front. The decision makers, it looks like, did not value activity.
Things have been going really, really well. I make really great relationships with my clients. So I disagree that my performance hasn't been, I haven't met performance expectations when I certainly have, just because I haven't closed anything officially.
But to say that she didn't meet performance expectations is not necessarily drawing out the meeting. I suspect, based on what she's saying here, that her manager has some blame here as well. It looks like the manager kept telling her she was doing great. She was doing well in terms of activity. And if the manager was not in line with the company strategy, it's possible that that's the case and was just as blindsided. But ideally, you do want to be working for a manager that is plugged into what really matters in the company. And if you don't, you're going to have a problem.
Also, why are you doing this and not my manager? We've never met. So this seems a little odd that My manager has no idea that this has been happening, and the director has no idea that this has been happening. So I'm just definitely confused, and yeah, I would love like an explanation that makes sense.
Okay, here she's asking about why HR is doing this and not the manager. And I agree with her. Ideally, the manager should have been there. It does look like her manager was out of the loop, was not aligned with company strategy, even her director. It points to something that happened rather rapidly at Cloudflare. So here, I have to agree with her that ideally the manager should have been there, the director potentially as well. To have HR do it by themselves points to issues with company culture that I think could definitely be improved.
100%. Real quick, let me carve out the two threads. The latter of why I'm on this conversation, I'll put that one to the second half, and Rosie might be better to explain the process of who's giving this information in the prior piece, which is your feedback and notes about your performance. So let me add a little color context to that. So just for clarification, you are not being singled out in this. Your peers are also being collectively assessed on performance. This is a collective calibration for Cloudflare. So I just want to clarify that piece. I won't be able to add any kind of specifics on numbers or.
All right. So here, I think HR has actually provided some good information. They've said that she hasn't been singled out. It is a calibration. So let's talk a little bit about what happens in a calibration. Calibration basically means that managers at higher levels have met. They've looked at metrics across a set of the population, across a set of employees, and they discussed how employees were performing. That's what calibration means. So in this case, it doesn't necessarily matter so much how you are performing against a set of metrics. What matters really is how you are performing against a set of employees in general. Now, the calibration itself can be problematic because the metrics that they're using to calibrate may have changed. For example, if you think activity is the metric for calibration and they're looking at closed deals as the metric for calibration, you're simply out of luck. And unfortunately, that's just how it goes in corporations.
Can you explain for me why Brittany Peach is getting let go?
I won't be able to go into specifics for numbers.
Wait, why though? I just started. I've been working extremely hard. Just because I haven't closed anything, that has nothing to do with my performance.
Okay, so this is, I think, the third time where she has says, just because I haven't closed anything, or referring to closing deals. So here, I think what's happening is that Brittany's trying to justify the fact that she had a lot of activity and had good feedback as the reason that she should not be getting terminated. HR has already communicated that she's been calibrated against her peers, and higher management essentially has decided that in this case she has not met the bar. But she goes back to working hard, and she goes back to saying that it has nothing to do with my performance. Look, this is not necessarily fair, but the reality is the company decides how you've performed. They may have changed the bar. They may have changed the metrics. That can all happen. And that's why it's very, very important that you are plugged in to the company, even if this means networking outside your direct group, even if this means talking to folks outside your manager. Your manager may not be plugged in.
On a 3-month ramp with just 1 month with 2 major holidays in the middle, I don't think that has anything to do with why I should be let go, if that makes sense. So I really need an answer and an explanation as to why Brittany Peach is getting let go, not why Cloudflare decided to hire too many people and are now actually realizing that they can't afford this many people and they're letting that go. If that's the real answer, I would rather just you tell me that instead of making up some bullshit and telling me that right before I lose my job from someone that I've never met before.
Okay, so here, what she's implying is the real reason she's being let go is that Cloudflare hired too many employees, and they're basically using this performance as just a sort of cover to let her go when they're essentially doing a mass layoff. Now, the reality is that in many sales roles, companies do expect some churn. They do hire salespeople. They do expect that the organization will have high turnover, and they do expect a certain amount of salespeople will be let go because that's just the nature of sales roles. So in this case, it's not that Brittany is wrong in the sense that the company is looking to let go of employees. They certainly are. But what they're saying is that they're doing it based on essentially performance metrics that are clearly different from what Brittany believes the performance metrics are.
If you can respect that.
Yeah, I can totally respect that. And I don't think Dom or myself today is going to give you any clarity or answers that's going to meet the expectations that you're communicating to us, Brittany. So I can't speak to.
So am I getting let go for no reason? If you guys can't give me a reason?
I'm happy to follow up with you separately to give you the data that was calibrated. I'll need to speak with revenue leadership specifically to see if we can get that for you. But Dom and
Can you share that with me now?
I cannot share that with you right now, unfortunately. Yeah, it's understandable how you feel and your frustration. Cannot stress that enough.
I have been working.
Okay, so here HR again talks about the calibration. So my read of the situation is that the sales leadership team met. They discussed what was needed to move forward for the new year. So they had some kind of calibration at the end of the year. They probably picked metrics that weren't well communicated to Brittany's manager and Brittany. So they were both blindsided.
Extremely hard. I just knew that this meeting was coming after knowing what's been happening with my peers and how extremely frustrated and upset everyone is. I know you guys must not be able to understand that given in the positions that you are in, and it must be very easy for you to just have these little 10-minute, 15-minute meetings, tell someone that they're fired, completely wreck their whole life, and then that's it with no explanation. That's extremely traumatizing for people, if you can imagine that. And I don't think that this is, it's just very, very shocking. Very, very shocking. I have really given my whole energy and life over the last 4 months to this job, and to be let go for no reason is a huge slap in the face from a company that I really wanted to believe in.
Okay, well, these parts are always difficult to hear. It's clear that Brittany has worked really hard. She talked about giving her whole energy and life over the last 4 months. Now, this is the hard truth about working for companies. Ultimately, your manager may care, your peers may care, but the company as a whole doesn't care. The company doesn't care how hard you work, how late you worked, whether you've sacrificed family time. What they care about is essentially delivering to the bottom line. And I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. I'm saying that's how companies are. You as an employee have to really be careful, because you maybe think you are doing all the right things. Working hard does not translate to doing well at a company. It only translates to doing well at a company if you are completely aligned with the company's direction, their strategic direction, whether or not that has been communicated to you. So, as part of being a savvy employee, you really need to understand that there's a difference a lot of times between what managers say, even what leaders say, and what really matters to a company. You have to read between the lines and understand what's really happening.
You that Dom and I do care. I understand the feeling that you have right now, and I can't change that. So I'll just be honest.
But why can't, you guys have still not given me a reason why I'm being let go.
Okay, so here HR has offered to go back and try to see if they can give Brittany more specific information. And I think that's a good thing. I'm not saying HR did everything as best they could have. It's tough for Brittany. Being laid off is not easy. You have a lot of emotions going through you. Sometimes it's hard to think straight. Here she's saying they haven't given me a reason. Now, the reality is that they did give her a reason. It's just a reason she doesn't accept as justified. Again, I'm not saying it is justified, but they have given her a reason. And, the storm of emotions is very, very difficult to handle. My advice is, as tough it might be, try not to attack the person delivering the news, especially if it's a third party. What you should do is to try to get as much useful, helpful information from them during the call.
Despite constant positive praise from my manager, great meetings that I'm having. The amount of activity that I have has all been positive. I have not received any negative inclination. I have not been put on a performance improvement plan, nothing. So.
I can.
Okay, so here she keeps talking about how her manager gave her great feedback, no negative feedback, was not on a performance plan. The reality is you don't absolutely need to be on a performance improvement plan of any kind for a company to let go of you. Typically, these employment contracts are at will employment contracts, which means that you can get let go at any time and for any reason. Now, one of the reasons that Brittany is trying to say that there was no performance issue might be because she's concerned about employment insurance or unemployment insurance, and that can be a valid question. But in most cases, unless you are let go for very blatant misconduct, you should be able to collect unemployment. Now, and in terms of severance packages and things like that, you can always negotiate those regardless. So, HR doesn't really have any authority or power to make any other kind of decisions in this meeting. And that's why this is not the place to try to justify, to try to negotiate, to try to change things. This is the time where you try as much as possible to be calm, collect your thoughts, and if you can, try to befriend HR, try to make them sympathetic to your cause. That's the best strategy, in my opinion, when these things happen. And then maybe you can just get a little bit more information than even they're supposed to tell you. If you identify HR as an enemy, if they view you as combative, if they think that you are basically going to attack them or sue them in the future, whoever's delivering that news is probably going to clam up. Okay, they're not going to give you anything, and they're going to turn off, they're going to be cold, and that's probably not what you want.
Not speak to what your manager has communicated to you directly.
But that should be the indication of
performance based on your attainment and leading indicators of data. That is the rationale.
But I've been here for only a month after ramping, and that was during a holiday. So I don't understand can you explain what those performance metrics are? Or is that just like a vague term to give to everyone that you're speaking to today?
I'll say that the performance indicators and performance metrics are, while they are, we're not able to go into specifics, and there's no situation where we will be able to go into
Do you guys even?
Okay, here I think Brittany should not have interrupted the HR person speaking. He looked like he wasn't going to give her specific quantitative data, but my sense is that if she had been a little bit less aggressive in the scenario and cut him off, he may have given her specifically some of the types of information that she was looking for. For example, he might have said, well, it's the number of deals that were closed or not closed as one of the criteria. But now I suspect because she interrupted, she will not get that information. Let's keep playing.
Do you guys even know why, who you're talking to each day? Every single 10, 15 minutes, do you guys even know who you're talking to? Why you're letting these people go when you don't even understand the kind of work and everything that they've put in?
I hear you and what you're saying.
It just doesn't make any sense that you guys have still not been able to give me a reason why I'm being let go.
Just from a process perspective, your questions are valid. This isn't going to be the forum and the situation where we're able to go into the detail that you're looking for.
But then when? If it's not right as I'm getting fired, then it's certainly not going to be after when I'm no longer part of the company.
So I don't think there's anything we can say in this moment or today, Brittany, that's going to change the way that you feel. And it's understandable. I'm taking notes and feedback, and we'll circle back.
Yeah, I know. You did that for me too.
But meeting, it's not going to change the outcome of the situation today. So if
all right. Well, here, Brittany keeps saying they have not been able to give her a reason why. I think she said this about 3 or 4 times so far. I get her frustration. She doesn't agree with the reasons, the rationale, but HR has given a specific reason. I'm not saying they've proven the reason. I'm just saying they've given a reason.
I do get into more of the specifics of what the next steps are, because I think it's clear that you have questions that we cannot give answers to. And if you'd be open to it, I'd love to move into what the next steps are so that you're not any further blindsided than you already feel.
Okay.
Thank you, Dom.
From her perspective, it's totally understandable. She's put in a lot of work in this company. She was led to believe a lot of things, bought into the culture, bought into the explanation she was given. Overall, it just seems like a failure of communication in the sales organization to what really matters, how people are actually evaluated.
And I'm really sorry that you're having this experience and feeling this way. One of the things that we want to confirm is your personal email address, because that's where all
right, and that brings us to the end of the play-by-play. Okay, well, now that we've heard Brittany's call, let's take a look at what the CEO of Cloudflare had to say about this. Cloudflare got into hot water because Brittany's TikTok video went super viral. It was in the news. It was all over the place. Let's see what the Cloudflare CEO said. He said, we fired 40 salespeople out of over 1,500 in our go-to-market organization. He talked about performance management. He says they can tell within 3 months or less if a sales hire, even during the holidays, whether they're going to be successful or not. So basically, the CEO is doubling down on the decision made by his organization. He's basically saying that Brittany was not a fit for the organization and that she did not meet performance requirements. Saying it's the whole truth. I am just saying he's doubling down on the position for the company. He says we don't hire perfectly. We try to fire perfectly. In this case, we were far from perfect. I don't know if those are the best words, but hey, that's what he chose to do. The video is painful for me to watch. Managers should be involved. HR should be involved. It shouldn't be outsourced to them. No employees should have to be surprised they weren't performing. Okay, my sense is that the only reason the CEO is responding is because it went viral. I don't think he would have probably given it much thought if it didn't go viral. Now, the company and the CEO is trying to do some damage control because they do want to maintain the sense that Cloudflare is a great company, a great place to work. We treat our people well. We have a great culture. All the stuff that they get employees to buy into when they join the company. But now if you're savvy, you need to be thinking ahead of those things, okay? Again, he goes into saying the healthy org needs to get the people who aren't performing off. So to the CEO, to the leadership chain, it's a clear-cut case. It is a case of not meeting performance. They're standing by that. It doesn't look like it's a larger layoff. So the sales team and the go-to-market team, which sales team is part of the go-to-market team in particular, was targeted. And that's the final word, essentially, from the company. Now, let's take a quick look at Cloudflare's financial performance. You can find this on their website. This was released on February 8th, 2024. Let's look at the highlights. Fourth quarter revenue totaled $362.5 million, an increase of 32% year over year. Great stuff, right? Revenue totaled something like $1.3 billion for 2023, representing a 33% year over year. All great stuff. Interesting. GAAP loss from operations of $42.8 million, or 11.8% of revenue. So what's happening here? The revenue is increasing, but the problem is the company is operating at a loss, at least a GAAP loss, which basically means that the company is under pressure to reduce their overall costs. They did achieve operating cash flow, record free cash flow. All that basically means is that the company has a good amount of cash to run their operations. And generally speaking, the company looks like it's not in trouble. It's doing well. But this nagging problem of profits is an issue because the market has. Let's go down and take a look to some of the numbers and see what we can find. So if you take a look at the numbers here, let's take a look. You can see that, there's a net loss. They've improved it somewhat in 2023, but not by a ton. Versus 2022, it was 59 cents, and in 2023, it was 55 cents. Basically, what this means is that the company ultimately has to get to GAAP profitability in this market environment. This is a big change from the pandemic days, the days of the past, where companies could just rely on growth and show top-line growth, and they had easy access to low-interest money. Now the market has changed. Investors are demanding profitability. And if upper management wants to get a good payday and reward shareholders, by increasing the stock price. What they need to do is focus on not just the top line, but also the bottom line. So let's see, how could they do that? Well, let's go to 2023 and look at the revenue. Okay, $1.3 billion cost of revenue, gross profit. So they achieved a gross profit of close to $1 billion. But wait a minute, let's take a look at the operating expenses and see what is the biggest operating expense. More than research and development, it is sales and marketing. The company is spending a ton of money on sales and marketing to sell its products. So the biggest place that the company can find efficiency, if they want to reduce their costs and increase their profitability, is in sales and marketing. Now, my sense of what happened here is that toward the end of the year, leadership got together. They said, hey, we need to improve our operational efficiency. We need to cut costs. They looked at sales and marketing in particular and said, hey, this is the biggest expense. We need to cut costs here. Then they came up with a criteria which may not have been communicated down the chain at all, and said, we're going to make a decision based on this criteria. And people's lives were affected. Was she fired for performance? Well, I'd say it wasn't purely performance in the traditional sense. I think not from her or her manager's perspective. But you see, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. What matters are the people who have power and the people who have control. And from those people's perspective, she was fired for performance from senior management perspective. Now, let's do a quick recap of what happened to Brittany Peach and more specifically what we can learn from it. The first thing is that working hard doesn't guarantee anything. You really need to be aligned with what the company cares about. You need to get savvy. The second thing is, if you're hired at a higher level, the expectations are also higher. So it's good to operate outside your comfort zone for growth, but find the right balance so that you're not in over your head. And the last tip, number 3, don't just go to the all hands rah-rah meetings. You're never going to get the whole picture just from inside the company. You have to learn how to separate fact from fiction. Learn to read the business environment and the company financials, and you'll be a step ahead. For more tips and insights, sign up for my free newsletter in the description below. Every month, I'll give a free consultation to a random winner from my newsletter subscriber list. Until next time, stay savvy.